Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Polson. We're in our last unit, Unit 9, Ecology. This is a massive, massive unit. Several chapters are involved in this. This is segment 1. There are 4 segments. This is segment 1. Ecological levels and energy. But we're going to start with, what is ecology? Ecology is a scientific study of the interactions among organisms and between them and their surroundings. Okay? So, relationships in ecology, we have to start to organize the levels, and we've talked about levels in taxonomy and things like that, that there's purpose, but this is going to start from smallest to largest, and we do need to understand these levels to really answer questions about the impact. So if a fire moves through a forest, what kind of event or what kind of impact is that going to have, and how is that going to play out? What's the ripple effect? To answer questions about complexity. What's the biodiversity of the area and why? And how does that interconnect going from one individual all the way out throughout all the life on the planet? So from smallest to largest, we have organism, is your smallest in ecology. And then those organisms that are grouped together in a specific area are a population of the same species that's a population. Those make up communities. Communities make up ecosystems, including non-life as well. And then ecosystems make up biomes, and biomes make up the biosphere. We're going to talk about each of these separately. But first, let's look at this visual. Here we're starting with organism. With ecology, we kind of start here and move up, okay? First semester, we really started here and moved up through this direction. So up through atoms and molecules, and then and cells make up tissues, tissues make up organs, organs make up body systems, and then we have the organism. Now with ecology, this is kind of our starting point. Okay? Levels. All right, now species wasn't included in our schematic, but species is very similar to the population level. It's a group of organisms that it can interbreed and can produce fertile offspring, meaning that those offspring can have more offspring. Okay? Now the difference between species and population, you guys, is time and place. There is the gray eastern squirrel worldwide. All of those individuals make up the species. But if I look out my window, I can see the woods that is next to our school. And the gray eastern squirrels that are in that woods make up a population. See the difference? Species is worldwide, right? And the population is very specific to an area and a time. So, individual organisms make up a population. Population are a group of individuals that belong to the same species and live in the same area. So again, population and species are different terms, and the difference is area and time. Now, the eastern squirrel, okay, as well as the turkey population and the fox and the hawk and the oak trees and the maple trees, those are all populations that make up a community, okay, in an area. In this image, we have the giraffe population, the elephant population, the zebra population, hippo population. I mean, all those combined make up that area's community. So community, we're looking at a bunch of populations, a bunch of life. Once we get to the level of ecosystems, we're now including not only the life, but the non-life as well. So biotic and abiotic. Those are vocabulary terms that will be addressed more in segment 2, but it's nice to introduce you to these as well right now. So non-living includes things like, you know, the air composition, the temperature of the area, the water, the moisture level, the pH of the soil, the amount of rain that it gets. I mean, there's so many non-living aspects about an environment that make up the ecosystem and that drive what lives there. The next level is biome, and this is going to have all of the ecosystems in an area that have the same climate and same similar dominant communities. So they're the tundra biome, and the desert biome, and the deciduous forest biome, and the coniferous forest biome. And these are all biomes, and if you were to look at all the deserts in the world, they are pretty similar in their climate, for example. And so those would be biomes. All of the biomes everywhere on the planet make up the biosphere. The Earth is spherical, it's round, so the biosphere is life circle, life sphere, okay? And it's the largest level, ecological level. Okay, next is energy. So this segment covers energy. You guys, I need you to look at the world around you in terms of energy. I tell my earth science kids that all the time. With biology, it all begins with energy. You eat food so that you have energy to function. So the main energy source for life on this planet is the sun. 99.985% of the energy for the planet begins with the sun. Okay? And you're going to find that with all the food chains and food webs, it always starts with the sun. There's one exception, and that is when it's not the sun. So down in the abyss, or the hot sulfur springs, or in areas where they're not using the sunlight as the main energy source, we're looking at something called chemosynthesis. And this is when bacteria primarily are able to take chemicals from their environment and generate energy for themselves from that. But that's the exception. Most of the energy for the ecosystem, okay, is going to come from the sun. There are two types of trophs, autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs, automatic. They are auto-making their own energy. So they're getting it from their sun or the chemicals, photosynthesis and chemosynthesis, to produce their food or energy. These are also called producers. So any kind of plant, any kind of algae, anything that's going to go through photosynthesis or chemosynthesis would qualify as an autotroph. Heterotrophs are everything else. These are things that are going to have to consume other organisms for their food or energy. You and I are a heterotroph, also known as a consumer. We have to consume. And that would be frogs, that would be reptiles, that would be your leopards, that would be insects, birds, amphibians, fish, mammals. All those things are going to be heterotrophs. There are several different types of consumers / heterotrophs, you guys. There are 5 that you're going to learn. Herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, detritivore, and decomposer. That's the list. Each of them individually we're going to talk about. So herbivores obtain their energy by eating plants. Herbivore, herb, has that word herb, that's a plant. So it's going to be consuming plants. Elephants, rhinoceros, most rodents are going to be plant eaters. A lot of birds species are only going to be eating seeds. So herbivores, they're the primary consumers. They're also called primary consumers because they're first in the line for consumers. Carnivores, those are going to be consumers that have to eat meat eaters. Okay, they obtain energy by eating other animals. Not plants, but other animals, other consumers. So these are considered secondary or tertiary consumers. Wolves, lions, top predators, those are going to be carnivores. Omnivores are going to eat both plants and animals, a little bit more diverse. Bears would eat berries as well as fish, right, salmon. This bird right here, this species, eats insects as well as seeds. And these guys will eat berries as well as a rodent or two or insects and things like that. That's going to be an omnivore, friends. We are omnivores. Detritivores, I don't know if you've heard the word detritus, but that is leaf litter. When you walk in the woods, that's what you're walking on, is detritus. So detritivores are going to be those consumers that feed on leaf litter, plant and animal remains. But guys, detritivores are going to be a little bit larger than your decomposers. They're going to be your worms, they're going to be your roly-polies, your earwigs, grody earwigs, snails, slugs. Those are going to be those things that break down that dead matter. And they are critical in our environment because they're what's breaking down the remains of what was alive and putting those nutrients back into the environment. Decomposers are the last type of consumer, and these are going to be also breaking down dead matter, but this is going to be more small scale. So we're looking at microorganisms like bacteria. Saprophyte is not going to be on a quiz or test, but these guys are another type of heterotroph, I guess you could say, where they are able to secrete enzymes to help digest whatever it is that they're consuming. So fungi, like mushrooms, and bacteria, decomposing bacteria, are going to be those in that category. But decomposers primarily are fungus and bacteria. You also need to know about feeding relationships. What eats what eats what. So energy, and you guys have to look at this in terms of energy. Energy is going to flow through this system. There's the bell. School is out. Energy is going to start, we said, with the sun, right? And then the primary producers, the plants, are going to take that in. The herbivores, like cows, are going to be eating the primary producers, the grass. What's going to eat the cow? Maybe a wolf. The wolf is going to be your carnivore. It will eat the baby cow. and then maybe something else, another predator might eat the wolf. But everything is going to die at some point and trickle into the decomposers. So fill out this schematic on your notes. It goes from sun to autotrophs, autotrophs to heterotrophs, heterotrophs to more heterotrophs, and then when everything dies, they're broken down by decomposers or detritivores. Okay? A food chain, by definition, is a series of linear steps. So it's a transfer in energy, you guys, and there's arrows. You're going to make some as well as food webs, and the arrows flow in the direction. So you guys are going to be making some of these where you're going to have the arrows, for example, from the grass, an arrow is describing the energy from the grass is going to go to the cows. So the arrow goes from the grass to the cows. And then from the cow to the wolf. So the arrows represent energy flow. So if you look at this food chain as an example and you watch where the arrows, the sun's coming in, it's delivering its energy to the grasses are picking up that energy, transferring it to the herbivores that are eating that producer, okay? And then that energy in this level is going to go to the next trophic level, which is your snakes, your secondary consumers, your carnivores. And then further it transfers to the tertiary consumer, the hawk. Once these things die, there'd be arrows actually from all of them to the decomposers. But what do you notice about the direction of the arrows? They flow in one direction. So the arrows represent what? Energy flow. Energy flow. So a food web is now many chains, okay, all linking together in complex interactions. So here's an example of a food web. You have a few different producers here being consumed by the herbivores. And then the herbivores are being consumed by the carnivores or omnivores. And then you have a top predator that's going to be a carnivore, third level consumer. So you have all these chains, and you can follow one path if you wanted to see that chain. Here's another chain from here to here. From here to here to here, from here to here to here to here. So all these arrows, though, remember, represent energy flow. And then once everything dies, decomposers and detritivores will break it down. Food web, many food chains. So what are trophic levels? We talked about autotroph and heterotroph, but what are trophic levels? These are feeding levels. These are, okay, so first you start with the sun and then you go to the plants. The plants are a trophic level. Okay, they're the producers. The second is going to be those things that eat the producers, so they're called primary consumers. And then the third trophic level is the secondary consumer. And then the fourth trophic level is the tertiary consumer, and so on and so on and so on. Here is a food web that's very, very messy and very, very large. And you can imagine in real life that this can get messy, because when you think about, all right, take a leopard seal. What are all the things it eats? I mean, there's so many things that can make up its diet. So then you'd have to include those in the web, and it's even messier than what you're seeing here. But the arrows represent energy flow, and it is very complex, and there's lots of different trophic levels, lots of different types of consumers, and so on. But it's following the energy. The last thing you need to know is the ecological pyramid, you guys. There's 3 of them that you're going to learn. And the ecological pyramid is a diagram that shows relative amounts of energy or matter contained within each trophic level of a food web. So the energy pyramid is going to indicate the amount of energy that's available at each of those trophic levels. So 90%, and this is shocking, but 90% of the energy at one trophic level is actually lost to the environment through respiration, movement, and reproduction. That means only 10% of the energy available from one level makes it to the next. So for example, the grass that was eaten by the cow, only 10% of the energy wrapped up in the grass. Okay, so there are the 3 pyramids, and energy, 10% of the energy from one level makes it to the next level. That's your energy pyramid. Guys, 10% of the energy at the grass level makes it to the cow. Cow has to eat a lot of grass to get that energy. 10% of the energy wrapped up in the cow makes it to the wolf. There's also something called a biomass pyramid. This is looking at the amount of living tissue in each trophic level. How many kilograms of food are in the grass? How many kilograms are in the cow? And the last one is the pyramid of numbers. This is the actual number of individual organisms at each trophic level. How many grass plants are there? How many cows are there? And so on. And that's it, guys. Done.